1,000 years ago, on the banks of the Mississippi River, a city rose out of the earth. At its peak, it was home to more people than London. It had pyramids taller than some in Egypt. It had astronomers who tracked the sun with terrifying precision. It had trade networks stretching thousands of miles, sports arenas, planned neighborhoods, and a skyline of earthen mounds that dominated the landscape for 100 miles in every direction. And then, it vanished. No war, no famous battle, no written record of what happened. Just silence. And 60 million cubic feet of earth, built by hand, basket by basket, left behind for archaeologists to find 800 years later. This is the story of Cahokia, America's first city, and its greatest forgotten mystery.
Cahokia sat just across the river from where St. Louis, Missouri stands today, in what is now southern Illinois. To most Americans driving past on the interstate, it looks like nothing more than a series of grassy hills. But beneath the grass lies one of the most important archaeological sites in North America. Around 1050 AD, something extraordinary happened here. A small farming settlement exploded almost overnight into a full-scale city. A transformation so sudden that historians now call it the Big Bang. Within a generation, construction crews were reshaping the landscape on a massive scale, raising earth by hand to build platforms, plazas, and monuments. Within decades, Cahokia's population may have reached between 10 and 20,000 people, and some estimates push even higher when accounting for surrounding farmland communities. To put that in perspective, London at the same time had a population of roughly 15,000. Paris was not much larger. For nearly 2 centuries, no city anywhere in North America would come close to matching Cahokia's size, not until European colonial cities were founded hundreds of years later. At the heart of the city stood Monk's Mound, a massive earthen pyramid covering over 14 acres at its base, larger than the base of the Great Pyramid of Giza. It rose 100 feet into the sky across 4 terraced levels, built entirely without wheels, without metal tools, without draft animals, just baskets of soil carried by hand, one load at a time, for generations, until it became the largest man-made earthen structure in the pre-Columbian Americas. Around Monk's Mound, more than 120 other mounds spread across the landscape. Platform mounds supported the homes and temples of the elite. Ridgetop mounds are believed by some researchers to mark astronomical alignments. Burial mounds held the remains of powerful individuals, sometimes accompanied by elaborate grave goods that suggest a rigid social hierarchy. This wasn't a village that slowly grew over centuries. This was a planned city, with residential neighborhoods, open plazas for gatherings and ceremonies, and infrastructure to support tens of thousands of residents. It remains, to this day, the largest pre-Columbian settlement north of Mexico. Cahokia wasn't an isolated farming town. It was the center of a trade network that stretched across nearly the entire continent. Archaeologists have found copper from the Great Lakes region, seashells from the Gulf of Mexico, mica sheets from the Appalachian Mountains, and stone tools crafted from quarries hundreds of miles away, all funneled into the city from every direction. This tells us something important. Cahokia wasn't just powerful locally, it was a hub of continental importance, connected by rivers and trails to communities 1,000 miles away, at a time long before horses, wheeled carts, or written communication existed in North America. Its builders were also remarkably skilled astronomers. Just west of the main plaza, archaeologists uncovered the remains of a massive circle of wooden posts, now nicknamed Woodhenge for its resemblance to England's Stonehenge. The posts were arranged with careful precision, aligning exactly with the sunrise on the solstices and equinoxes. This wasn't decoration, it was a functioning solar calendar built from timber, allowing Cahokia's priests or leaders to track the changing seasons and likely schedule ceremonies and planting cycles around it. The people of Cahokia also had a rich social and recreational life. They played a game called Chunky, in which a smooth stone disc was rolled across a cleared field while competitors ran alongside and threw spears, trying to predict exactly where the disc would come to rest. Bets were placed, sometimes wagering everything a person owned. The game became so popular that it spread far beyond Cahokia, and evidence shows it remained part of Native American life across large parts of North America for centuries after the city itself had emptied. Religion appears to have played a central role in daily life as well. Archaeologists have found evidence of large communal feasts, ritual offerings, and sacred spaces built directly into the city's layout. Some burial sites suggest a stratified society, with certain individuals, likely rulers or religious leaders, buried with elaborate ornaments made of copper, shell, and exotic stone, surrounded by the remains of retainers.
Taken together, this was a sophisticated society with organized religion, precise astronomy, competitive sport, long-distance trade, and a clear social hierarchy, operating at a scale that historians once assumed was simply impossible for pre-contact North America. For decades, some archaeologists doubted a Native American city could reach this level of complexity without outside influence. Modern archaeology has since proven those assumptions completely wrong. For roughly 150 years, Cahokia thrived. But by the 1200s, something started to change. Archaeologists found evidence of a wooden defensive wall, a stockade nearly 2 miles long, encircling the central district, reinforced with watchtowers spaced at intervals along its length. Excavations show the wall was rebuilt at least 4 separate times, suggesting ongoing maintenance, ongoing need, and possibly ongoing conflict. A city that once had no need for walls suddenly needed serious protection and kept needing it for generations. Then, over the next century, the population began to fall. House counts drop. Construction of new mounds slows and eventually stops. By around 1350, roughly 300 years after its founding, Cahokia was empty. The site that once held tens of thousands of people was abandoned, left to the prairie grass. What makes this disappearance so haunting for archaeologists is what's missing from the evidence. There's no sign of a massacre, no mass graves pointing to a single catastrophic battle, no burned layer across the entire site consistent with an invading army destroying the city in one violent event. Whatever happened, it wasn't sudden. It was a slow unraveling, stretched across multiple generations. So what actually happened? Archaeologists and historians have proposed several overlapping theories, and most researchers today believe the truth involves a combination of all of them. The first is environmental collapse. Supporting a population of this size required enormous quantities of timber for construction, for the stockade walls, and for fuel to heat homes and cook food across tens of thousands of households. Some researchers believe this led to widespread deforestation in the surrounding region, which in turn triggered soil erosion and increased flooding along the Mississippi and its tributaries, undermining the very farmland that fed the city. The second is climate shift. Around this period, parts of the northern hemisphere entered a cooling phase now known as the Little Ice Age. Shorter growing seasons and unpredictable weather could have devastated corn harvests that Cahokia's massive population depended on for survival. A city this size had very little margin for repeated crop failures. The third is political and social strain.
Some archaeologists argue that Cahokia's rigid, centralized elite class, the same leaders who commanded the labor to build the mounds and organize the trade networks, eventually lost the trust or cooperation of the wider population. As inequality and demands on labor increased, this may have led to political fragmentation, internal conflict, and gradual outmigration as families chose to leave rather than remain under increasing strain. The fourth is resource exhaustion. With tens of thousands of people concentrated in one relatively small area for nearly 3 centuries, the surrounding hunting grounds, fertile soil, and accessible timber may simply have been used up faster than they could naturally replenish. The most likely explanation isn't a single dramatic event captured in a single archaeological layer. It's a slow compounding of pressures, environmental, agricultural, social, and political, building on each other across generations until the city could no longer sustain the population it once supported. Importantly, the people of Cahokia didn't disappear from history. Most researchers agree that Cahokia's population gradually dispersed into smaller communities across the region, rather than dying out in place. Their descendants are connected to the native nations who live in the Midwest and Plains today, including the Osage and other Siouan-speaking peoples, whose oral histories and cultural traditions carry forward threads of this ancient civilization, even now.
Today, Cahokia Mounds is a UNESCO World Heritage Site, one of only a small handful in the entire United States, and the only one dedicated specifically to a pre-Columbian Native American civilization. It stands alongside places like the Pyramids of Giza and the Great Wall of China on that list, a recognition of just how significant this site truly is on a global scale. And yet, outside of archaeology circles, most Americans have never heard of it. A city that once rivaled London in population, that tracked the movements of the sun with wooden monuments, that pulled copper and shells and stone from 1,000 miles away, and that stood as the largest urban center north of Mexico for centuries, remains one of the least known chapters of American history. Part of the reason is simple. Cahokia left no writing system behind. Unlike the Maya or the Aztec, there were no carved glyphs or painted codices to tell their story in their own words. Everything we know comes from the ground itself, from careful excavation, radiocarbon dating, and the patient work of archaeologists piecing together a civilization one artifact at a time. Every new excavation at the site brings fresh detail into focus, and often opens up new questions rather than closing old ones. Researchers are still debating the exact causes of the decline, the true size of the population at its peak, and the full extent of Cahokia's influence over other native communities across the continent. What we do know with certainty is this. Long before any European ship reached these shores, North America had already built and lost a great civilization. The story of the New World did not begin with Columbus. It was already centuries old. Cahokia stood for roughly 300 years. It fell roughly 300 years before Columbus ever set sail. Its people built one of the largest cities in the world at the time, using nothing but earth, timber, and human effort. And then, slowly, walked away from it. And to this day, no single theory fully explains why. What do you think really happened to Cahokia? Was it the climate, politics, the environment, or something we haven't discovered yet? Let me know in the comments below. And if you want to keep uncovering the lost history buried beneath America's soil, subscribe to Primal Origins, because this is only the beginning.